I have done my homework and my research, try to study certain things because it applied to me directly. But once again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a PT, I'm not a professional when it comes to transverse myelitis. I have it. I've had it for the last 6 years as of today, so since 2019, 6 years. And this is just a small dose of what I've experienced, all based upon and geared towards the questions you guys asked. Out the gates, bowel and bladder. So a little bit with transverse myelitis, right? It does affect everyone differently. In my experience of a lot of people reaching out to me, we don't share the same disconnection of the nervous system in regards to limbs. And some people's upper, lower, the left, the right, one arm, both arms, one leg, both legs, no legs, right? But the most common thing that people have been asking is it tends to affect a lot of the bowel and bladder. So here's the first question I've gotten. Hey, after getting control over bowel, in how many days did you get control over your bladder? Once again, for me, I actually don't have control on my bowel or my bladder. They have improved from being on the hospital bed to 6 years today. They have improved, but not significantly. And I would say I don't have control of my bowel and my bladder. But what I've happened is I've adapted to understanding when I'm backed up or when I'm not voiding enough. So I'll tackle it separate. We're going to go with the bowel. I just pay attention. I've gotten into the habit to actually look at my stool every time I go and how often I go. So I've grown to be more conscious of the amount of times that I've gone to release my my stool, and then I'm conscious of what I've ate that leads up to that dropping, and then the texture and what it looks like. Because I realized that as I was trying to go through the process of speaking with doctors, they would ask, well, do you know what you ate, before that? And that's when I realized that my body, for some reason, can no longer break down beef as well anymore. So I've learned not to eat beef so frequently because it takes longer for my body to digest that because, it's muscles. This is all still muscles in there. So I hope that answers the bowel question. So when I realize that I am backed up or I'm not satisfied with the stool I've released because I'm aware of what I've eaten, and it's like, man, it needs to be way more than this because I've been eating a lot, I'll go ahead and do suppositories. I'll do some over-the-counter stuff to just kind of some laxatives to release it. And almost once in a while, I'll try to, I use this loosely, force myself to have diarrhea. Well, I'll have a lot of foods that will loosen your stomach. Like I'll go crazy on some pineapple because that tends to really loosen up my my bowels. And I'll do that on purpose, and then I'm kind of, I'm loose for a couple of days. So that's for bowel. For bladder, this one's probably the hardest to deal with because I don't have control of my bladder on where I would like it to be. I can maybe hold my urine now. Like if I get the urge trying to go, I can probably hold it for maybe 2 minutes tops. But when I feel that urge, the leakage begins and I have to rush towards the bathroom. So because I haven't mastered it and I haven't got controlled, I got smarter then. I got used to knowing what to do. So some of the things I do is I drink more water than I should. Because I don't void properly, I want to make sure that I'm not retaining a lot, that I'm just consistently drinking enough water. So I'm consistently going to the bathroom. Yes, that's annoying. Yes, that makes it difficult because every time I sit for a while, I could have just went 5 minutes ago, but if I sat for 15 minutes and I get up way too fast, it puts that pressure in the bladder and then I got to go to the bathroom again. And if my my bladder is always consistently full, then that means I'm going to the bathroom consistently. But you know what? I'd rather do that than to get infections, to get UTIs or anything worse because, if you're listening to this and you have transverse myelitis at some point of your life, we don't know when we're sick. very well. We don't know when we get infections very well. We don't really know when we get injured. So best practice for bladder for me has been drink a lot of water. And number two is like I avoid any other beverages that are not pure tea. I have a weakness to sweet tea ever since I moved to the South, so I try to avoid that as much as I can. But I really just drink water, black coffee with nothing in it, and sparkling waters. And occasionally I have a sweet tea, but I try to go with unsweet. I do not drink anything and then protein shakes, right? So I don't drink any sodas. I don't drink any juices, just because it's that will increase the possibility of me getting an infection in my bladder because I cannot void properly. So that's that one. Hope that answers your question. And if you got any more questions, feel free to reach out. Next question. How many months did you first start voiding on your own? So when I got admitted, they put a bag in me, and I had that bag for my whole entire stay. So I did 2 stints. I did 8 days in my hospital, in the hospital under intensive care, and then another like 5 weeks at physical therapy. I keep wanting to say personal training. Physical therapy. And about my 2nd week into physical training through occupational therapy, they taught me how to self-cath. And then I self-cath for about maybe 6 months. And when I started working on my pelvic floor exercises, which is what I learned from occupational therapy, from outpatient therapy, was where affected me is T5 down. So it's my whole core is affected and down. And I have learned that through working your pelvic floor, that's not core exercises, it's not ab exercises, it's like your pelvic floor. It is like, it's where your back is, and it's the muscles that are technically still part of your core. We think the core muscles just being the front ones, but it's your whole entire trunk. So it's the back side of the trunk. So when I started working on my pelvic floor, it was when I was getting the ability to void on my own. So all that to say, about like 8 months. Yeah, about 8 months, I really stopped cathing, and I was able to void. Next question. Did you have the urinary retention initially? Yes. My bowel and bladder completely shut off. So as soon as I was admitted to the hospital, when they took it seriously, I wasn't going number 2 or number 1 at all. So I was retaining all my bowels and everything in my bowels, retaining everything in my bladder. So yeah, I've had retention, and I still have retention to this very day. It's just a small amount that's there. And like I mentioned earlier, is I drink significant amount of water to make sure that whatever's retained there isn't there much longer than it needs to for me to get infections or bacteria. Next question, did you have to catheterize initially as well? Yes, not self-cath, but they cathed me, I believe my 2nd day there. I think that's when they cathed me. And like I mentioned, I had a catheter in me for about 8 weeks, and then learned how to self-cath, give or take. So that's bowel and bladder. That is all the questions the most common questions asked about bowel and bladder.